Hello and welcome to the Way of Conscious Mindfulness podcast with me, Sifu Boggie, and this show especially is what's its name again? Sit with Sifu or something like that. It's like I don't know. I make the name up every week as I go along, but the whole point of the show is it's a Daoist that is understanding the Daoist philosophy. The Dao means the way, the path, the balance. And part of my philosophy, my name is Sifu Boggie. Sifu means guide, muse, somebody who points you along the way, who guides you on your path. And today we have a special guest, somebody to ask me some interesting questions and see if they can catch me off guard. We have the wonderful Kristin. Hello, Kristin. How are you doing? And actually, you know, for the audience, who are you and what do you do?
Well, hello, Sifu Boggie. Thank you so much for allowing me to meet with you today. I always enjoy and absolutely cherish our conversations. Again, my name's Kristin. I am a Reiki Master Practitioner and just a kind of a jack of all trades, I guess you could say. My interests are widespread, and I always adore being able to have these conversations about really anything under the sun. But today I would love to discuss Taoism and the basic philosophies and principles of Tao and how it can apply to everyday life, and just to be able to help see the benefits that really anybody can have when working with the philosophies of the Tao. So super grateful for you and all the wonderful things and all the healing modalities that we share. And it's been an absolute treasure to be able to just get to know the wisdom and beautiful, beautiful conversations we share. So thank you for having me here today and allowing me to bring these questions forward.
Cool. I'm happy too, because I mean, I can, as most people know, or my students know, I can ramble on a bit. So if I have a little bit, you know, even the Sifu needs a Sifu, and the whole idea is like, well, when you're asking the questions, it allows me to sort of narrow the answer, because somebody once said, well, what happens if somebody asks you the same question? I said, well, even if they ask me the same question, there's about 15 answers that I can come up with, because there's so much, you know, if you ask about a certain thing, there's so many different experiences that I've had, so many different, you know, it's, it's coming up to, what is it? So 11, yeah, 11 was 11 going into 12 that I met my Sifus. So that will be, I'm 51 this year. So that's like that's almost 40 years, all 40 years of doing the Tao. I know I don't look old enough. I look like I know, but anyway, so enough about me as such. What's your question? What would you like to know first?
Absolutely. So just in my own journey working with Tao, it's been something that, you know, I've learned is a very fluid term, something that can really be applied to many different principles. But the underlying theme for me anyways has been seeing the flow of life and being able to see the Tao, your path, the way, and flow, and understanding that it's okay to change. And so for me, the big question I have for you today is, how does one connect with their Tao, and how do we know the flow of the path?
Wow, that's an awesome question. I'll come back in about 10 years and let you know. It's a very cool, you know. So, and you'll probably on this podcast you'll hear me say it a good few times, because it takes a while for people to realize. But the Tao simply means the way, the path, the balance. But it's your way, your path, your personal balance. You know, you have the universal Tao, but you have your own personal Tao. And when we think of the word balance, we tend to, in the West, we tend to think of a straight line, or we tend to think of steady scales. And the issue is that in the Eastern philosophy, and you know, when you look at the universe, we go through ups and downs, we go through waves of stuff. And so, you know, balance isn't a set line, it isn't a stationary thing. Balance moves, you know, and I think we get in this impression that our life's supposed to be exactly the same all the time, every time, or that we're meant to know what to do all the time and never have and have all these strategies. And I mean, as you sort of said, there are many variations of the Dao, of Daoist. There are many types. There's the Barefoot Doctor, DragonDog Shaman, the Cloud Whisperer, the Drunken Daoist, and the DragonDog Shaman. Or did I say that twice? Maybe I said that twice. There are so many different variations, but it's about this personal balance, finding your personal path. And there's sort of some guidelines, there's certain little guidelines that sort of help you on that. It's that everything in the universe is energy. Everything we sort of hinted off screen. We talked about the Matrix a little bit, and we live. Everything is energy, and everything is this vibrant energy, and we tend to forget that because we go through life and we put our hand out, we hold a door, or we drive a car, and everything seems so solid and stationary, and everything seems in a certain way, but everything's actually more fluid than we think, and everything's more energetic than we think, and what you have to realize is that even you are fluid. You're who you were. And one of the Daoist poems I always remember, who you were when you were 3 is different to who you were when you were 6, which is different to who you were when you were 9 and 12 and 20 and 33 and 53 and so on and so forth. So your perception of realities are always only based on the here and the now, what you know now and what you see now. And so, it's this thing of first is that things can change, things will change, things do change, and things are fluid. And the only things, while you're alive, the only things you can sort of guarantee is that you'll breathe, that when you breathe in, air goes in, and when you breathe out, hopefully air goes out. That sometimes can be stopped by certain things, but this idea of breathing and this idea of flowing, that everything changes. Even a mountain changes, but it changes very slowly. And this thought of breath, when I mention breath, is that breathing affects doing. And what do I mean by that? Is that the way you breathe affects the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you do. So there's a Taoist philosophy that says if your breath is shallow and rapid and fast and erratic, your thoughts are shallow, erratic, fast and erratic, and your actions are shallow, erratic, fast. Is that how you're breathing affects how you're thinking and how you're feeling and how you're doing. So as you're going through life, actually just pondering on your breath and focusing on your breath can actually change a lot of stuff. And people who know me, I'm a big advocate for Qigong and Tai Chi. And I'll say, there's a Qigong for that. But Qigong, one of the simplest translations of Qigong, simply means breath work, working on your breath. And so when you look like you're talking about, how do you find your Tao? It's like, well, firstly, breathe. Breathing is good. Don't turn blue. I am a first aider, but I'm probably nowhere near you to help you. So breathing is good. And when you breathe, it affects the way you think and affects the way you feel. And then sort of go from there. There's this interesting philosophy in Taoism. A lot of the Daoists talk about when hungry, eat, when tired, sleep, when thirsty, drink, when happy, laugh, when sad, cry. And it's interesting how a lot in society, how many times do you get to you're actually allowed by yourself or by your parents or by your work or by society, how many times are you actually allowed to eat when you're hungry? How many times are you actually allowed to sleep when you're tired? How many times do you take coffee or Pro Plus or whack yourself over the head with a hammer to keep yourself awake? How many times do we actually go against our own personal Dao, our own personal path, our own personal way. And it's this thing of, understanding, before you can understand or love anybody else, you have to understand and love yourself. You have to know thyself. It's this information is within religion, it's within different cultures, it's always there. And so it's this thing of, by learning to actually understand yourself, learning that everything changes, everything flows, the way you breathe affects the way you think and feel, just by starting off with those simple things. And, when you can eat when you're hungry, when you can sleep when you're tired, when you can laugh when you're happy, because how many times do oh no, it's inappropriate to laugh, or it's this, or it's that, the other. And it's this interesting thing. One of the many interesting things in Taoism, you have the divine feminine, which is an energy. We talk about divine feminine as female. Yes, there's lots of beautiful females out there, but divine feminine as an energy, it's a quality, it's an energy. And the divine feminine is the nurturing side of you. So whether you're man, woman, banana, or goat, as I say, everyone has a divine feminine side. Everybody has a side where they need to nurture, where they continue stuff, they get stuff going, because it's brilliant to start things, but if you can't maintain them, they're not going to last. So everybody has a divine feminine side, that loving, nurturing side, that side that will keep things together and keep things going. And then you've got the divine masculine side, which is that I'm here, I can do this, I can get things done. And it's all of that protection side as well. And females protect their young, a woman will protect her man, that. So you have that side, that masculine side does already exist. And then there's another side, and that other side is the inner child, the sacred child. And the sacred child, one thing you and I are notoriously known for is play. Is being silly and playing, and for those on audio, is that Kristen's got her Groot sitting on her screen. I've got my old Yoda behind me, and there's a baby Yoda somewhere. And I'm notoriously known for grabbing lightsabers and doing really silly stuff. But play is really important. Is that, in psychology they've learned that, when children don't actually play, it actually impedes their development. And adults are no different. Is that when we're restricted from play, that's why we have sports, and that's why you do have certain things, because play allows you to express yourself. But there's another side to, like, the child, is that a child expresses their emotions. It's funny how, we want, we think, children are so lovely. And then we so desperately try to alter them and change them and stop them being children, because children will play and will talk to themselves, because that's, again, it's actually in psychology, we actually know by talking to ourselves, we're actually creating our own inner dialogue, and it helps us. But we adults tend to say, children, that's an imaginary friend, you've got to stop doing that, or stop playing in that sort of way. That's a childish way to play. You have to play in this sort of way, a more adult way to play. And another thing that's really important is a temper tantrum. And most people will go, what? But when a child has a temper tantrum, it's a way of expressing themselves. It's a way of them getting out of those emotions when emotions pent up. In our society as an adult, we suffer from heart attacks, we suffer from stress, we suffer from anxiety. And it's because we're not openly expressing ourselves. So back when I said, sleep when you're tired, eat when you're hungry, drink when you're thirsty, laugh when you're happy, cry when you're sad, and shout and wail and scream if you have to when you're angry. And it was both in the West, Lao Tzu's is TZE. They call him normally. A lot of people say Lao Tzu's and Sun Tzu's, and it's actually Z. It's almost like you're smelling off milk when you speak to Chinese. It's like Z. So it's Lao Zi, Sun Zi, and these guys, they talk about expressing yourself, and it's all, yes, your goal is to be balanced and flow, but sometimes to flow you need to kick and scream and shout and have. I'm half Irish, so there's a saying in the Irish called fagary. It's like getting angry, and letting it out, letting off some steam. Have a fagary, and the whole idea is, when you allow yourself to do that, you allow yourself to find your balance, to find your Tao. Is we forget the world has big storms. The world will have hurricanes. When the energy builds up, when pressure builds up, it's released somewhere. And it's released through storms or tornadoes, hurricanes. And that's terrible. But it's the earth balancing itself out. It's what it does. So finding your Tao of sorts is about allowing yourself to be, is like observing, listening to yourself, and even the voices in your head, they are just shades of you. There are sides of you, that whole thing of monkey mind and ego. And sometime in the past, people would talk about ridding yourself of the ego. Ridding yourself of the ego is like ridding yourself of half your body. You can't do it because it is you. It's part of you. And it's you expressing yourself in a certain way and expressing old memories, old formats, old programs. That's what ego is. It's, like when you were told off as a kid for doing something, and as an adult, you still have that voice in your head, and or something goes wrong. You have that voice in your head. You have those in your head, and they are part of you. But the important thing is not to actually tell yourself off for listening to them, but it's more actually going, oh, thank you very much. Is there anything else? Actually, when you talk to yourself like a child does, when you actually start talking to those thoughts, at least, not necessarily out loud, but in your head, at least, when you talk to those thoughts, you'll hear them go quiet. You'll hear them correct, because when you ignore them, it's like that person that keeps going on your ear. Or the children sitting in the back. Are we there yet? Are we there? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And sooner or later you go, shut up, because you lose your cool. But if you go, no, we're not there yet, but I'll tell you when we are. Oh, okay. And you just, and we're the same. We have that child inside us. We have those voices. And when you actually start to, instead of seeing them as separate, the Tao part of the balance is everything is one. You live in this moment right now, and also you live on this ongoing journey. So when you start treating everything as part of it, there's no longer those separations. There's no longer that confrontation that we necessarily have. Now, I've rabbited for quite some time. So what have you made from that, or what do you think of that so far?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate the reminder about the breath, because I know for myself, especially whenever I am walking along a place of my path where maybe I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from my Tao, being able to remember the simple things that I can control in this now moment, which is my breath, and working with it, and being able to, in those moments, allow myself to stop and ask, how am I feeling in this moment? Because like you said, a lot of the times we're not able to express ourselves if we're, angry or tired or excited, whatever the case may be. A lot of the time in our society, where we have these constructs of how we are to behave in certain scenarios. And so being able to give ourselves that space to be expressionate to our true nature, not holding that judgment or even trying to manipulate the way that we do truly feel inside, but rather just holding space for it. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that beautiful, beautiful reminder about the breath. it's a very simple one, but it's very, very powerful. And I think it's easy to forget the basics sometimes. So beautiful reminder there. And then also, I really appreciated you mentioning, like you said, the expression of the inner child, of the masculine, of the feminine, and being able to check in with each parts of those within yourself and say, you know, am I feeling creative? If my creative energy is blocked, you know, and then you can kind of stop and ask yourself, like, why am I feeling blocked in my creativity? What part of my feminine side might be needing a little more love or understanding or nurturing? And I love that you always bring up thank you, is there more? Because you're right. If you sit there and you ask and you say, you know, whatever it is, it presents, you know, more like, oh, this, you know, I tried a creative thing and it didn't go the way I wanted, and so now I'm hesitant to go in that direction. And then you sit and you ask, okay, thank you for that wisdom. Is there more? And you continue asking until eventually, as you mentioned, that there is no more, and you're able to sit in silence with it. And in that moment is where you can really find that peace of like, okay, I've addressed it all. Now I can sit and assess and evaluate, or just soak in, or allow it to have whatever space that it might need in that moment to just be. So thank you for that beautiful wisdom. What the Tarian goddess in the chat asked, can you please explain what Dao means? So is there a way you would like to answer that, Sifu?
Oh God, how long have we got? And this is actually not the. I've already explained it in like the first podcast, but I'll happily explain it again. So the Tao, you know, so the Tao on a very simple basis. The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. So it's an ongoing journey. It's a circle. It's a continuation. The hero's journey. For those who know about the hero's journey, it's this journey that you go through. And you know, so you know, the way, it's finding the way, your personal way, as well as the way of the universe, you know, because the Tao is many things. It's not just one thing, it's many things. A mountain has its way, you know, and you walking on that mountain you have your way of walking on that mountain. It's a process of sorts, and it's your flowing of that thing, whatever that thing is. I always say there's a Qigong for that. Well, there's a Tao for that as well. You know, there's a Tao to breathing. There is a Tao to eating. There is a Tao to sleeping. So the way is a path, but it's not, you know, sometimes, well, in Zen, or in Chinese, in Chan, which is Chinese for Zen, Zen is very set. It's very clear. It's very to the point. It's boom. And, you know, very sort of sidetracking for a second, when you were saying about, you know, asking, oh, is there any other questions? In the Zen way of doing it, that's actually called the truth of the thousand cuts, where you actually say, you know, somebody's saying, oh, you know, I'm really depressed. Why are you depressed? Well, but why? What happened when you was a child? Why? And it's quite harsh. It's quite it's very much like it's almost, for those who remember Pink Panther and like Kato, it's very much like Kato jumping out of the cupboard and whacking you over the head with a big stick. You know, it's very to the point. It's very direct. The Daoist way would be, thank you very much for that information. Is there anything else? Rather than saying, why do you think this? Why is that your answer? Why? Is there anything else? Can you add anything to it? So the Tao tends to be a little bit more softer. The Tao tends to be this, it adapts according to your needs, according to your situation. As I was speaking to somebody today about NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And I've said before is that NLP is actually like the Western version of Taoism. It's a way of understanding how the brain works and how things work. But the higher up you get into it, the more energetic, the more spiritual, the more esoteric it becomes. The more it's just about the flow of things. And And it's the same with the Tao. The Tao can be at a very survival level. It's very much about how do you adapt to the situation? How do you survive? But when you're no longer in a survival mode, it's how do you thrive? How do you flow? How do you grow? And so the Tao is this way, this path, this balance. The part of it is that balance of when you live in a cave, you want to learn how to pick berries. You want to know what's the right stuff to eat. You want to know how to hunt and kill if you're going down the meat path. When you're in a spaceship, you don't worry about caves and berries. It's about how do you use that technology? How do you beam yourself from one ship to the other? How do you avoid getting attacked by the Klingons, or is that just in my world? So your Tao changes. Your Tao is a point of view. Your Tao is where you are right now. But the Tao is allowed to be adaptive. The Tao is allowed to flow. So let me know if that, I used to rhyme and I sometimes do it all the time. Let me know if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sifu. I'm grateful you brought up the fact that the Tao can change, because I know, at least in my experience, we get an idea and we're like, okay, this is going to be the thing that I'm going to use to identify with in this moment. So that's going to be how I direct my focus. And it can be at times whenever we do that, we're actually limiting ourselves as far as where we're going to allow ourselves to flow. And whenever we have this such direct divine focus on something that we might not be allowing of the flow, we then find ourselves in situations where, at least in my experience, if I'm not going to flow with life, life will flow around me. And so it's almost like, instead of being the water, I'm being like the rock sitting inside of the water, being against the flow. And so just knowing that it's actually really beautiful whenever the energy flows and you allow yourself to go into new spaces. And it can be difficult to, oh no, hold on, sorry.
That's right. There's a little bit of music for the interlude, but we're back.
Yes. But yeah, just allowing yourself to flow with whatever it is that your heart calls to in the moment. If you're in a place where, let's say you put a lot of energy, you're going with the flow, you're feeling in the Tao, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, I'm not feeling very connected with my own life anymore. I'm not feeling connected with the spaces. To be able to stop and like reassess with yourself and say, where in my life am I drawn to? And then allowing yourself to move and not holding any judgment or anger or frustration with yourself for your path. Because even though a place that you may have put a lot of energy or time, or maybe you envisioned your path going down in this direction and it's not going in that direction anymore, being able to see that as a beautiful opportunity and be grateful for the lessons that you learned while, on that path, but understanding that the beautiful part of the process is finding the different path or finding the new way. It's almost like it reminds me of one of the first times you and I connected, and I was working with my artwork, and you showed me how to utilize my energy in my artwork. And that was a really powerful moment for me, because since then my artwork has completely changed, and I've been able to be much more fluid and flowy and create things that I'm more connected with. And so, but had I in that moment held on to my rigid way of, no, this is how I was taught in school to do the pen work or brushwork or whatever, I might not have allowed myself that opportunity. And so, I know that it can be, there are definitely times in our path where we want to stay in those old energies or stay in those old paths or be in the Tao of the past, but knowing that it is beautiful to flow into the new spaces. And if there's any kind of wisdom or guidance you would like to share for those that might be trying to flow in a new Tao, and maybe they're struggling to release the old paradigms or the old ways, that can be utilized to find that gratitude for the new, as opposed to the anger or frustration.
Well, there is this thing, there is this interesting thing, even with names, and that's the whole point in the universe. Things are what they are, and when we name stuff, we're trying to put it in a certain box. We're trying to say it's a certain thing, and so you know, but you know, you think a pen in English is something else in Italian, is something else in French, is something else in Russian, is something else in Chinese, but it's still technically a pen. And this whole thing of we name stuff, and there's even to the point where within the Japanese and Chinese, you have the Japanese, you have sensei. Now, sensei is master, and sensei, the Zen way is very much this is, and sometimes it can sometimes happen with guru as well, is that, you know, very much I'm the master, I'm at the top of my game, I know everything, you must follow exactly what I say and do. And Sifu, you will have people who say Sifu means master. But how it was always taught to me, Sifu is more the actual Shifu. The actual name itself is more parent. It's more, it can sometimes be father, but also there, you know, it's used for female Sifu. You know, a female is still a Sifu because it's a parent. It's somebody who lovingly guides you and helps you along your path rather than forces you to do a certain thing. And it's this thing is that when you live in a very rigid way, in a rigid world, or it has to always be like this, eventually the universe itself, the universal Tao, will knock you out. It will take you off course. It will throw everything upside down. I literally learnt what the next thing I'm about to say. I literally learned it as a lesson, is that my Sifus once said, it's like when in a stream, when you're in a river and it's a strong current and you try to fight against the current, it will wear you out and you could almost drown. But if you let yourself relax and become buoyant and flow with the water, it will naturally take you to the sides. And my Sifus literally threw me into a river to prove the freaking point. And you know, said, right, well, I'm throwing you in, swim back, and I'm like, absolutely worn out. And then as I got to the bank, they threw me back in again. So now relax. And you know, it took longer, but I eventually got pushed onto the bank, onto the side. And the metaphor, that physical metaphor, is that when you fight against others, yourself, the universe, it becomes a hard struggle. It becomes when you're fighting against your own. You know, if you feel sad and depressed and you're trying to fight, I must be happy, I must be this, I must be that, you actually will wear yourself out. It'll actually cause more troubles. Now, I'm not saying be the opposite and be like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh and be depressed all the time. But there's this cool little trick that my Sifu's taught. It's like whether it was anger or fear or frustration or even jealousy, is that, okay, you know, you're starting to feel that and say, okay, I'm allowing myself to feel this for 5 minutes or for 2 minutes, and say, right, and after that, then I must let it go. And it's this interesting, it goes back to that ego thing of like, when you start actually listening and saying, oh, thank you very much. Is there more? Is there anything else? When you go, okay, right, I'm frustrated and I'm angry. Right, okay, I'm going to give myself 2 minutes to be like this. And or the Daoists say, you know, what, scream, shout, wail, have a temper tantrum. You know, do what you need to get it out. So, you know, I either do that or like the other version is, I give myself those 5 minutes, that 5 minutes of being fully immersing myself in that fear, or fully immersing myself in that sadness, that, you know, that whatever it is, allow yourself a period of time to immerse in it. And then even I've done it with a alarm clock, set the alarm clock. And once that alarm clock goes, that's it. It's now time to change. It's now time to, and it's almost like in training where you get, you know, you know, you're training hard. You go, right, you've got 5 minutes from now to relax. But once that bell bings, then you've got to, right, okay, that's my 5 minutes over. Now I've got to do something. Now I've got to move. And so it's this thing of change, if you are rigid, you'll be more rigid. If you try to resist that rigidity, you'll be more rigid. And so it's allowing yourself to be it for a moment or for a period of time, but then encouraging yourself to flow and change. And it doesn't happen overnight. You'll feel that resistance, but you always come back to the thank you for that information. Is there anything else? Or, okay, right, all right, I'm going to keep doing it for another 10 more minutes, and then I'll have another 5 minutes of doing nothing, or 5 minutes of whatever it is you need. And less is more. There is, within Daoist concept, they believe everybody tends to have heard the saying, the water torture. And we always seem to always know the negative stuff of certain techniques and not the positive ones. But the water torture is actually called the water way. And it is that drip, drip, drip creates a river. So a little bit every single time builds up. So within psychology and NLP, there's that NLP word again. There's very much a thing of 15 minutes of doing something every single day from between 4 to 8 weeks. Some say less, some say more. Creates a habit. So you do the same thing for 5 to 15 minutes every single day. You create a habit. So if you create a habit one way, that means you can create a habit another way. So when like people say, just because on the audio you wouldn't have seen it, but Christian just taken a sip of water, and it's the thing of water. If you actually say, instead of I must drink 2 liters every single day, have a glass and never let it go empty. Take a sip every time you think about it, a sip, not gulp, 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 a sip. And every time you look at the glass, take a sip. Every time you think of any word ending with Y, take a sip. Find an excuse, but you take a sip and you make sure that glass never goes empty. So you fill it back up, take a sip, take a sip, take a sip. When it gets near empty, you fill it back up. And that's how you create a pattern. Even in training, you want to learn to get fit. 15 minutes every single day will actually get you fitter within a 3-month period than doing 2 hours 2 or 3 times a week, because of that regular exercise actually builds up. And you do that 15 minutes, and after a period of time, you will actually do half an hour, because you will actually forget you've done the 15. That feels like nothing now. Let's do another 15 minutes. Or like you want to do 500 sit-ups. You start off with 10, and then every day or every week you add a couple more, and you build that up. And over that period of time, that becomes your new normal. You get into that routine, it becomes a new normal, and it's easier to add more. And you become a new normal, easier to add more. And when you do it like that, and also when you remember the sacred child, so the regular routine is the divine feminine. The doing it is partly the divine masculine, and the playing with it, having fun with it, is the sacred child. So when you can maintain all of those three, the divine feminine, divine masculine, and the sacred child attributes, you'll find your Tao, you'll find that flow, you'll change things. But the but is you've got to stop confronting yourself when you make a mistake. When you forget to do a day, just, okay, well, I'll do 15 minutes tomorrow. Berating yourself actually slows you down more. When you tell yourself off, when you tell a kid off, you're actually enforcing the negative. It's negative enforcement. When you tell somebody off, you're actually programming that negative thing that you want them to stop. You're actually programming it more. So when you berate yourself for not doing something, it's more likely you're not going to do it the next day and the next day and the next day. So it's far easier to go, I didn't do it, but I'll do it tomorrow. And you do it tomorrow and you go, I'll treat myself to a currant bun or I'll, an extra 5 minutes in bed, or whatever it is you want to treat yourself. Because again, just like children, when you go for positive correction rather than negative. So when you give yourself when you treat yourself when you do something right, rather than tell yourself off when you do something wrong, you're more likely to build up positive attributes. You're more likely to build up positive ways of doing stuff. So it's focusing on the light than the dark, and it's allowing yourself to flow and not be rigid. But hey, as any good Daoist should say, what do I know?
So there's a balance then between allowing the flow and also having a schedule, so to speak. Like, so, because I've heard you mention this before, where you'll say, 15 minutes is more powerful than an hour. And so whenever I first started Qigong with you, I would spend 2 hours every week working on Qigong. And then we had a conversation and I said, okay, I'm going to try just waking up and doing 10 minutes of it each day at the beginning of the day. And I have seen such an increase in my energy just in the last week of taking that 10 minutes each day, as opposed to doing 2 concentrated hours of it on one day. So, but at the same time, it's almost like, but then how do you allow yourself to flow if you have a set schedule? Does that make sense? So it's like, so wake up the day.
The thing with the Dao is this weird contradictory. There's both you're both set and flowing at the same time, and it's like so. You're like, oh, but if you're doing 15 minutes a day, that's a routine, but you get up every single day. Hopefully, you go to the toilet every single day. Hopefully, you eat and drink every single day. That's loads of routines you've got there, but it's routines we don't think about. And the whole goal in the Tao is you make things effortless. There's a saying called Wu Wei, which means do little and everything is done. Doesn't mean do nothing. It doesn't mean just don't do anything all day. But when you make things effortless, they flow. When you make things a habit, they flow. So it's creating those habits. Now, remember, 15 minutes every day. Well, 15 minutes out of 24 hours is a very small window, but that means that 15 minutes you can do anytime you freaking want in that 24 hours. So, yeah, there is a schedule in one way, but there's not in another. That you can adapt it to, you can, and I can say that as an instructor, as a Sifu, I should be doing something like 8 hours every single day. What I can guarantee, ever since I was 11 years old, I've practiced half an hour every single day. I can guarantee that. I've done and I used to be a baker, so we did rather naughty, slightly illegal, but we worked like 24-hour shifts. And so, but I could find half an hour, I could find 15 minutes, or I could do 5 minutes in that, in that time. I have many different skills, because that's my Tao, is all these different skills. And I do massage, reflexology, acupressure, Reiki, Shin Shishen, all different types of healing. And I'm notoriously known at a spiritual camp that I used to go to. Obviously, I say used to because COVID stopped it for now. But I've got this record of doing 18 hours of non-stop massage. And people go, oh, wow, how could you'd burn out? How can you do that? And it's like, well, what happened was there were 15-minute massages, half an hour and an hour massage. And in between, I'd get 5 minutes or a couple of minutes in between each person. I do 5 minutes of an exercise. I do my most known one I teach, the one that's on YouTube, 10,000 people have watched, is Willow Tree Qigong. And it's a very simple exercise. And I would do that, or there's a couple others that I would do, and that would keep me flowing. That would keep my energy flowing. That would stop me from seizing up. And that's how I could do 18 hours of non-stop massage. And also there's tricks within the massage, because when I do massage, I'm actually doing Qigong, meaning that I'm standing in a certain way that the energy's still flowing and my body's still relaxed. Because a lot of people, when they do massage, they're hunching their shoulders, or they're scratching their back, or they're frowning seriously and creating lots of tension within their body. And just like everything is your Dao, everything has a Dao. There's a Qigong for everything. So there's even a Qigong for doing massage and healing. And that's the whole point, is that everything becomes part of your way, everything you do has a Dao. Everything you do has a Qigong. And when you get to that point where everything you do is a Qigong, that energy never stops flowing. You never stop getting more energy. You never stop, because people say, Boggie, how come you got so much? How come you're like a 3-year-old? You're always bouncing off the walls. You got plenty of energy. Because I'm always connected to the Tao. I'm always connected to my Tao, that ever flowing energy. It's like being plugged into the universal socket. You're always getting that energy, and sort of like Reiki alludes to this and talks about this, but it's this constant flow of energy, that everything, there's energy all around us, there's energy everywhere. They talk, there's a great physicist called Nissan Herriman who says that a cup full of space has enough energy in it, all the atoms inside has enough energy to evaporate all of the oceans of planet Earth. How many cups are inside you? However big or small you are, there's more than one cup. Unless you happen to be a fairy, there's at least one or more cup of you of energy. That means you have this unlimited energy inside you. You have numerous amount of energy, and it's just about learning how to tap into that energy. And there's a thing about epigenetics, and epigenetics, in essence, the Boggie translation of it is how you feel affects your physical body, affects your health and your healing. So if you're feeling happy, your body expands and the energy expands. If you're feeling scared and frightened, you're more likely to get cold, you're more likely to get flu, which we already know this. It's almost common sense that, when you're stressed, I've got a cold, it's because I'm stressed. Or, I'm worried about stuff and I've hurt myself, or I tripped over. And we already know this, but it's actually, epigenetics shows it's a reality that how you feel, how you think, and how you do affects everything around you and affects you.
With that concept, with that idea, so if you're feeling anxious, let's say you're feeling anxious about whatever the situation, let's say you're just feeling anxiety in general. If you stop in that moment and you allow yourself to feel the anxiety, you ask yourself where the anxiety is coming from, and then you hold space for it as opposed to, trying to dismiss it or belittle it, then you've allowed that anxiety to flow, hypothetically. And you give yourself the time, like you said, say you give yourself 5 minutes to be in these energies and to allow them to hold their space. But then I think the most important step you mentioned is that moving forward, that, okay, I'm done. Like, okay, I've set aside space for this. I've given myself time for this. Now what can I do to move forward to increase my energy? Can I do some Qigong? Can I go and play with my little toys and have some fun? Or, what can I do moving forward? Maybe it's a matter of, maybe you find out you're just tired and you need a nap. Go take a nap, but yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that. That wisdom is super, super helpful, and just really grateful for being able to hear your wisdom and working with the Tao. I know it's a journey. I know it's a path, and I'm so grateful for it, because it is unique to each and every individual. Every person has their own path, and I think for me, anyways, the most empowering part of it has been being able to just see that there is no wrong path. That the wherever I'm at in this moment is where I'm meant to be. And what can I do with this moment to make the most of it, or to learn to move in the next direction, or to increase the joy in this moment, but really just being able to be present and in this now moment. And I think for me, anyways, that's a lot of what my Tao is just learning to be present and hold that gratitude. And I adore the fact that we can take 15 minutes. You can do anything for 15 minutes, okay? And how big it can change the rest of your day whenever you stop and say, you know what? I'm feeling anxiety. I'm going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to stop. Maybe I'm going to do some Qigong. Maybe I'm going to sit in meditation. Maybe I'm going to go and I'm going to scream in my pillow and I'm going to jump up and down. I'm going to find a way to let this energy release, and then being able to call it back to you. And now you have released the energy that is causing tension, and you bring it back into your being to be able to utilize it, as you said, to like, the energy is everywhere. It's all around you. It's how you interact with it and how you use it to amplify and move in whatever direction you're moving in. So yeah.
And very quickly, as I can say, is very importantly, is like you say, if you are stressed, if you are anxious, angry, whatever it is, check your breathing. Because remember, if your breath is fast and shallow and erratic, your thoughts are fast, shallow and erratic. If your breath is tense and aggravated, your thoughts, your actions will be tense and aggravated. So if you're anxious, how are you breathing? Are you breathing? Are you holding your breath? So breathe. So, Qigong, and we'll talk about that another time, but Qigong, one of the simplest translations of Qigong is breath work. Breathe. Goodness safe, breathe. Then you can work. If you don't breathe, you won't work. It's quite simple. So when you're, however you're feeling, if you're not chilled, then check your breathing and breathe.
The power of the breath, Sifu. It's absolutely beautiful, and the wonders it can do in the mind as well, right?
Yeah, and also the whole thing of in Taoism, there's a whole humility thing, and the whole thing of never take yourself or anybody else too seriously. When like the Zen, there's I'm a guru, I'm the master. You must obey what I do. As a Sifu, you don't have to listen to me. You should listen to yourself. You don't have to listen to me. But this is why I say, hey, what do I know? Because it's that, is that if you take things too seriously, you're missing the point. You're drifting away from your own Tao, because it's a wave. It's not a straight, stagnant line. It's a wave. It flows and it moves. Mm. So always, remember to have fun, even with yourself. Never take yourself or anything else too seriously, because you'll miss the point. You'll miss that way. You'll miss your Tao.
I love that.
But hey, what do I know?
It's beautiful. No, absolutely. It's definitely easy to get caught in the moment of that seriousness, and that's for me why I love the element of play in anything we can do. Like, I was spending time with my mom the other day, and we just said, you know what, it's a sunny day, let's blow some bubbles. And we went outside and just blew bubbles and had a great time in the sun. And she came to me afterwards and was like, I haven't blown bubbles in probably 10 years. That was so powerful to be able to do. And it's simple, right? Like, I think a lot of the times it's easy to overcomplicate things and say, oh, well, people spend hundreds of thousands of years studying all of these different techniques and tools and things. But at the end of the day, it's about finding what works for you, right? And if you can find something that is as simple as connecting with your breath and asking yourself, what do I need to know in this now moment, that how powerful it can be, right?
Yeah, you're right. But also, what did you do? You were blowing bubbles. What happens when you blow bubbles? You have to breathe. You're breathing out your your stress, what you no longer need. You're breathing it into a bubble, and you're watching that bubble disappear. So your worries, your stress, that negativity, what you breathed out, is in a bubble floating away, and then it goes poof. Oh, musical. And this is the point, so that simple thing is actually a meditation. Meditation simply means focus on one thing and forget everything else. So even the act of blowing bubbles there's a metaphor there. You're releasing what you no longer need. It's been encapsulated in a wall of soap and water, and then it disappears into the ether. And that's why it feels so good, because you're actually doing a meditation. It's not sitting on top of the mountain going, oh, That's a meditation. It's not the only one. Everything, play is a form of meditation. Play is a form of Qigong. If you do it right, if you do it in a way where you just have fun and you let go of what you need to. And that's the point. But
Absolutely. Stay tuned for bubble blowing meditations and Qigong.
I think I need to do a class on that. I think the next sunny day, I think I'm going to go outside and do bubble Qigong.
I will sign me up. I will be there for that one.
I think, but why not? Why the puck? I said puck. Why the puck not? That's the whole point. Is that we're meant to have fun. We are meant to still be children. Even as adults, you're meant to play. You're meant to have fun. But we, at some point, got into this seriousness, thinking, "Oh no, as a child, no." Adult fun is different. You have to be in a certain way. You have to do a certain thing. Nobody ever said you can't blow bubbles at 102 years old or however. Actually, I think people think I'm 900 years old. But anyway, nobody said that it's wrong. Everything is play. And this is why kids are so important, because kids are our Sifus. Kids are our teachers. And animals are too. Animals, when they want... when they want fuss, they'll let you know. They come and sit on you, if you're not paying attention. And especially dogs. And I know you like me, you're a dog lover. But even cats will say, yes, I want fuss now. Come and fuss me. And if you don't, they'll cry until you do, or they'll go and knock something over or something, and that's the universe saying, look, we're taking things too seriously. We're missing the point, and that's the point. The Tao is that balance, but the Tao is the now. The Tao is living in that moment, is appreciating everything you've got, and it's religion's talked about this. If you was to die tomorrow, what would you do today? And how many people would totally change their day and do so many different things if they knew they were dying tomorrow? So why aren't you doing that today then? Or at least some of it, at least 15 minutes of it. Is that, yes, we have bills, and yes, but you will find, I can always guarantee, when people say they don't have time to learn Qigong, I can absolutely guarantee there's at least 15 minutes in their day where they're doing nothing but fidgeting or worrying about something they don't need to worry about in that 15 minutes. I can guarantee probably there's quite a few of those. And that's the point. And if you can do that for Qigong, you can do that for meditation, and you can do that for stretching. And ultimately, that's what I'm all about. It's energy work, stretching work, and meditational work. But Qigong you can do all of them you can do all three of those in one exercise. That's the whole point. But it's this whole point of, you've got to live in that moment. You've got to learn how to live in that moment, and you've got to learn how to let go in that moment as well, because it's not about just about living in the now. It's flowing with it and letting go. Remember that river. You fight against that stream. And I know lots of people who fight against the stream of life, and that's why they've ended up ill, and they've had, heart attacks and major issues or accidents, because they're fighting against the stream of life. Let go and go with the flow every now and again. If you can't do it all the time, that's fine, but at least do it every now and again. Blow some bubbles, have some fun,
Yeah. Absolutely. I know for me, the mindfulness has been what has really helped me, because you mentioned, how long have you wasted 15 minutes worrying about something and you don't even realize? I mean, I can tell you I've wasted hours on something, not even realizing that I've given my mental energy to this for hours, until I realize I'm feeling exhausted, or now I'm past the point of frustrated. Now I'm actually angry, or whatever the situation may be. And so that's why for me, utilizing those mindfulness practices of stopping in that moment and saying, okay, I can feel my mind is not where I want it to be. Where can I bring it back, or understanding why I'm in that situation, and being able to really give it love and understanding, because a lot of the times anyways, it seems that most problems we experience in life are opportunities for more love and more understanding. And so just being able to give that to yourself in those moments where maybe you have given away hours or days of your time to your mental thoughts, to your external experiences, the things that you may not have any control over. And rather than saying, oh man, I wish I hadn't lost all those days or lost all that time, worrying about that thing that I can't even do anything about, give yourself gratitude in the moment and say, thank you for being aware of the situation. Thank you for seeing what's happening around you, and thank you for caring, and I know that whenever I find I turn that mental dialogue from the questions or the angry or the doubt, whatever it is, into that gratitude and into that love, that I find it flows from my space, and then I don't necessarily want to come back to it because I've given it the love that it was asking for, right?
Yeah, and that's so important is that you got to live in those moments, but you also got to learn. Dwelling in the past is the past. You can't change the past. And if you've got a TARDIS, you can't change the past. If you've got a TARDIS, go and use your TARDIS, go to the future. And the same in the future, you can't change the future. It's the future. That's the point. But you can do something about the now. And that's, and there's and we're in Daoist saying, they say, if you're worrying about something, there's nothing you can do. Why are you worrying? There's nothing you can do. If you're worrying about something you can do something about, don't worry about it. Do what you've got to do. And that's the point. That's important. And there's other poems which we'll save for another time. But it's really important to learn that you need to. Your way, your path is in that moment. Do what you can do now, and watch. I was notoriously known as a baker, which I can now get away with to say. But I was notoriously known as a baker doing 10 hours of work in 8. And people say, how do you do? You're a time traveler. How can you've done 8? That's 8 hours work, and you've done it in 8. I don't understand how you've done that. Because when people realised my secret, because I'd actually go to sleep for 2 hours and then still get all the work done, and then sometimes I'd get caught and they say, but you've been asleep for how have you? And it's like, because I don't fluff about. I get what needs to be done, and it gets done. It's boom, 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 it's done. Then I suddenly have a window of time. I go and rest, go back, boom, 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 get what needs to be done. And where other people fluff about and doing this and mulling and doing that, and that's why they need 10 hours to do that work. But when you do it in a certain way, you can fold space, you can fold time, you can make something shorter. If you actually take all those times where you're doing nothing, you take them away and add them somewhere else, you can do something. I used to do 18 hours a day training, and people say, but you've been at work for 10 hours a day. How have you done 18 hours a day training? Because I've been training at work. When I was baking, I've been in Shaolin style. I've been doing a certain Qigong in between. So I was always exercising. I was always doing the stuff. And that's the point. You can always do something. There's always something. Bruce Lee was notoriously known for sitting there watching TV and having a wax ball and massage, strengthening up his hands or lifting weights. Well, he was always doing something because he wasn't wasting energy. He wasn't wasting chi. And that's the thing of it's just learning to do things in a different way. I mean, you can learn to do things in a different way. You'll change your reality very, very quickly.
I love that. So in the theme of stress or anxiety, would you have a suggestion for the viewers on a Qigong for let's say a 5-minute Qigong for stress or anxiety?
Okay, so obviously noting for those on my audio, it would have to be very much an audio, not a visual. So what a very, very simple, easy one. May combine two. So let's do the first half anyway. So rubbing your hands together. So rub your hands together like you're cold. And then what I want you to do, I want you to place, it doesn't matter which one goes first, place one hand on your belly, on the belly button, then place the other hand on top, and just relax the shoulders, the arms, point the elbows out ever so slightly so the armpits are open. And then I just want you to notice your breath. So as you breathe in, I just want you to relax your belly. So let your belly expand and think of like, you know, you got a ring, one of those blow up rings around your belly. And as you breathe in, the whole of your belly, back and the front, you feel it expand and you feel your hands gently being pushed out as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, do the opposite. Gently, not too vigorously, gently pull that belly in and pull that belly in more as you're breathing out. Just pull it in more and more. Not too much, not too hard. Don't cause yourself pain, but really pull that belly in as much as you can. And then at the end of the out breath, breathe in. So breathe in, relax the belly again, let the belly expand. Breathing in, feel that belly expand. So as you breathe in, the belly expands with the hands on the belly. And as you breathe out, you're not pushing the belly in with your hands, but you're just using the hands as a guide. Feeling, as you're pulling your belly in, you're feeling the hands go inwards. So as you're breathing out, you pull your belly in. And as you breathe in, you let the belly go out. And then just another thing I want you to add. So as you breathe in till you can't breathe in anymore. Don't hold the breath, don't stop, but think of that wave. Think of a wave. So you breathe in, you can't breathe in anymore, and you start to breathe out. And as you breathe out, you're gently pulling your belly in more and more and more. And when you can't breathe out anymore, don't hold the breath, don't cause tension, just start to breathe in again. So breathing in, let the belly expand and feel the hands gently being pushed out. Breathing out, pull the belly in and feel those hands gently come in. As you're breathing in, you breathe in till you can't breathe in anymore. And you're like top of the wave. And as you breathe out and you can't breathe out at them anymore. And you're at the bottom of the wave. And so sort of seeing your head, seeing your mind as you breathe in, that wave builds up, or you could even be on that ring, that air ring around your belly. You're sitting there in the water, your own ocean, and as you breathe in, you're at the top of the wave. You're all the way at the top, and then as you breathe out, the wave slowly sinks, and then you're at the bottom of the wave. And just as you're breathing in, feel that air expand your lungs, because as you're breathing in, you pull your belly in, you're actually opening up your diaphragm, your lungs to their fullest. So you're getting as much chi, vitality, everything you do want as you can. And then as you get to the top of that breath and you start to breathe out and you gently pull your belly in, you're squashing the diaphragm, you're pushing the diaphragm up, you're exhaling all that air, the char, what you no longer need. So you're getting rid of what you no longer need. So that's your air, that's your stress, your worry, the tension. Everything is going out when you're breathing out. And then when you can't breathe out anymore, you just breathe back in again and filling up with chi again. So as you breathe in, get to the top of the breath, you fill up with chi, everything you want, everything you need, the light, the energy, the expansion. And as you breathe out the char, the stress, the worry, the tension, everything you no longer need, everything you no longer want. So breathe in the chi, everything you want, and breathe out the char, everything you no longer need. Breathe in the chi and allow that wave to expand to the top. Breathe out that char and allow that wave to sink to the bottom. And just continue for a few moments, breathing in that chi, breathing out that char, breathing in the chi, feeling yourself grow, and breathing out that char and letting the shit go. And continue that for another 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just keep that going just for a little bit longer, breathing in the chi, breathing out the cha, and eventually you don't even need your hands there. They were just there as a guide. They were just you sitting on that wave. But if you can, slowly continue that going as you go on your day, breathing in, let the belly expand, breathing out, gently pull that belly in more and more. Breathing in, filling up with chi, breathing out, letting out that cha. And just continue that process and allow that to flow, allow that to grow. And we'll just do another 3, 2, 1. And you can keep the belly breathing, but take your hands off the belly and just rub them again. Rub those hands together. And then in a second, just keep breathing. And in a second, what I want you to do is put the hands onto your face, and then just breathe in that energy, that heat that you've been rubbing in your hands, draw it into your face and through the body and down the body into the feet. So run the hands and then place the hands onto the face, breathe in. And feel that go through your face, through your head, down your body, into your feet. Breathe out. And this time as you breathe in, just gently slide the hands over the top of the head, all the way to the back of the neck as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, slide the hands down the side of the body. So the left hand on the left side, right hand on the right side, all the way down to the belly button. And place the hands back onto the belly button. And then breathe in the chi. And breathe out the cha. And then gently, if your eyes are closed, just gently open them, shake your hands, and we're done.
Wow, thank you so much, Sifu. That was absolutely beautiful, and I'm really excited to put that one in my tool belt for later. So, wow.
And that is technically, that is a Qigong, that is a meditation, that is, that's a tool. And that's the whole point in Taoism. You have lots of those tools, you have lots of those Taos. That's the point. It's just finding different ways to keep yourself on that balance, on that flow. But remember, like I say, you go up and you go down, even in the course of a day. And it's all good. There is no good or bad, there just is.
There just is. Absolutely.
Okay, so, well, thank you so much, Kristen. This has been awesome. And thank you for everybody in YouTube, on TikTok, on Kristen's TikTok, and everybody in the audio world. I hope you enjoyed this. Now, if you're interested in learning Qigong, I do actually teach it online all over the world. And I actually have a Discord, which is like a messenger service, as well as I'm on Patreon, so www.patreon.com/Sifu, Sifu, Boggie, Boggie, or if you're in the look at the comments down below in the writing, you'll see that as well. So on Patreon, sifuboggie.com, I have my classes, and I use Patreon in a different way. I use it as a school, and each level has a different amount of different classes, and you can go from some very basic classes to actually eventually going into actually becoming a Sifu yourself. So if that interests you, have a look on www.patreon.com/Sifu Boggie. Patreon.com/Sifu Boggie, and come and have a message with me, or you can always find me on YouTube. You can always find me on the Way of Conscious Mindfulness on Facebook as well. And also, where can we find you, Kristen, if we want to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sifu. And I just want to say, I am a proud Patreon supporter. I adore Sifu's classes. He has a very, very flowing way of teaching that makes it very applicable. So I highly recommend. You guys can connect with me on YouTube at Pinoak's Cove, or I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Pinoakrising. And we work with Reiki and tarot and spiritual guidance in my spaces. So yeah, that's how you guys can connect with me. And I'm so grateful, Sifu. This has been absolutely lovely as always. I adore our chats, and I'm grateful for the wisdom.
Indeed, well, I'm grateful for you to be here to ask questions and help me on my Dao doing all of this. So thank you very much. So guys, I think I'm actually going to have to cancel it all together. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this, and we will be back at some point in the future. I will be back with Sitting with Sifu next week. So until next time, whenever that is for you, it is goodbye from the wonderful Kristen. She's saying goodbye. She's
goodbye. Goodbye, sweet soul.
And for the audio world, and it's goodbye from me, love, chi, and Shen.